Hi, my name is Kim Shutt, and this is my EDL 856 case study on parental apathy through Fort Hays State University. Category 1, we are identifying the problem and analyzing certain issues that arise in our case study. As far as information that we already know, in the John F. Kennedy School, there is no active PTA or PTO, but there has been an active committee in the past. The current principal feels that the community wants to be very hands-off, and there's very little parent and community involvement at the school. The principal appears to be apathetic to the lack of community involvement and parental engagement. He has tried previously to engage everybody, but got a decent amount of pushback, and he was apprehensive to try promoting this again. Like I said previously, little response to parent, community, and volunteers, and poor attendance when he did hold parent meetings. And the most recent meeting, there were only 8 parents who attended in the hopes to creating a new advisory group. As far as more information, as far as what we need to know, I think a huge piece of this is what strategies have been used in the past to get parents in the community involved. Because there was previous involvement, but now they are struggling, so something must have changed along the way. What barriers or doubts do parents in the community have about getting involved, and how can the current administration help to alleviate those barriers? Barriers could mean a lot of different situations, which I will touch on later in my presentation, but even just cultural differences, not knowing when meetings are being held, and just communication strategies and getting that information out to parents in the community. I think a huge piece of this too is we don't really know any information on demographics of the school. How large is the school? What does the community look like? Maybe 8 parents honestly is a realistic example of how many parents would show up at the meeting, depending on how large the school is. As far as finding out information about what do parents and the community specifically want to help out with at the school, a lot of people will be more invested and interested in attending meetings based off of what is covered at the meetings and what they can specifically help with. Do we have specific tasks, needs, and areas of focus for parent volunteers and community partners? It was mentioned in the case study that there weren't very many volunteers either throughout the school. So making sure that we have specific details as far as those tasks and areas of need. Another thing that I'm curious about is how long has the principal been at this school? He might be experiencing some burnout in his position if he's been trying the same strategies and they're not being effective. He might not be very motivated to get an increase in participation. And then another big piece of this, as far as what we need to know, is what are other schools in the district doing to get parents involved? Are they struggling? Do they have the same issues that John F. Kennedy School has, or are they being successful? And if they are being successful, what can we do in our school to kind of mock their positive examples? Problem identification. So there's apparent apathy for many stakeholders, which includes parents, the current principal, and various community members. The principal apathy seems to come from a history of little success on previous attempts. Like I mentioned before, this could be from a possible burnout, maybe not being up to date with communication strategies, or just needing a new administration team. There's not a whole lot of data present, so where is the data? Community and parent apathy seems to only be based on the perception of the principal and new administration, so getting actual data as far as parent and community involvement could be helpful in moving forward. A huge question too is just what overall is causing the disconnect. Also, like I mentioned before, maybe cultural differences. There's a lot of research and different articles that I was reading as far as a huge reason that maybe parents in the community are not involved in school is just conflicting schedules. If parents have a night shift, if we're asking parents to be involved during the day, that can be really difficult for them to kind of match up the school schedule with their personal work schedule. Also, childcare, if they have other children and not just the child who's involved at that current school, they might not be able to attend certain events if they don't have childcare. Same with transportation. Depending on their current situation with that, it might be difficult for them to actually get to the school at certain hours. And I think a huge piece of this too is just lack of experience. If maybe they haven't been involved with previous parent committees or community committees, they might not know what exactly that all entails, and they're apprehensive to get involved because it's not very well laid out, or they're not sure what all they're getting themselves into. As far as this particular case study at John F. Kennedy School, the new administrator seems, in my opinion, to be worried or intimidated to step up to their current administration team. Since she is a new assistant principal, it might be difficult for her to approach the situation because the other administration has been there for a while. And then a huge problem too, just overall, should we be advocating to make a new advisory committee or not? Is it worth our time? Which in my opinion, it definitely would be to get parents and community members involved. But how do we go about tackling that huge task? In category 2, we'll be talking about a proposed plan of action. So in the proposed plan of action, I think a few steps will help to alleviate concerns with parent community involvement. I think first and foremost, we need to hold a meeting with current administrators and department lead teachers to get an idea of the history of the parent and community involvement at the school. I think by calling in these leaders, this will help to get a better idea of what has worked in the past and maybe where we went wrong in the path of getting those people involved. I do think it's important that we move forward with the advisory committee. And like I mentioned before, depending on the size of the school and the community, I think it's important to analyze quality versus quantity. Even if we have 8 parents, which is a very low number depending on the size of the school, if those 8 parents are very dedicated, then it could still be a very good advisory committee. And not necessarily worried about the quantity of people involved. A big piece of this too is creating a mission statement or goal for the school and building that community relationship. Like I said before, if people aren't sure of the final outcome and kind of the purpose tied behind everything, they might not be as willing to help out. So if you have a clear mission statement proposed ahead of time and this is communicated out in a positive PR strategy, this will make people more willing to participate. I think as far as advertising early with a variety of communication methods, not everybody has access to social media or certain technology communication means. So making sure that you're communicating in a variety of ways with parents in the community will ensure that you're getting as many people involved as possible. Getting feedback from the community in regards to their level of interest in school engagement and what they would want to be involved with is really important as well. If people feel that their that their opinions are valued, then they will be more interested in becoming involved and specifically what they want to be involved with. A big piece of this too is creating community partnerships in order to increase involvement. I am a career and technical education teacher currently, and this is something that we stress day in and day out in CTE. Getting kids, parents, and the community involved with guest speakers and making student connections and just career involvement will make it more relevant for everybody involved and in the end benefit students. Strategies for implementation. So first and foremost, getting staff and administration on board. So getting as much input as possible and creating a sense of community within the school first is important. As far as the administration being on board, like I mentioned before, the new assistant principal seems apprehensive in maybe addressing the issue with the principal, which I think it's important for her to kind of reach out and get another source of communication if possible. Like I said, moving forward with creating the advisory committee, having clear communication, advertising as early as possible, recording meetings. I think this is important too because not every parent and every community member can attend every single meeting. So if a parent couldn't attend a meeting, sending out minutes, maybe recording the meeting so that you can still get everybody's feedback and you're being inclusive of all people involved. Making sure objectives of the committee are made very clear. So this will help to boost student success, creating a community career connection, getting input from those people within the community, and really putting students first. So what are those 21st century skills that students need in order to be active community members? So this kind of goes along with creating community partnerships with local businesses stemming from the committee. So people who are currently on the committee, how can we network? How can we get them involved with more pieces of students' academics? And then, like I mentioned too, just including a variety of PR strategies. So using a variety of social media outlets, the radio, newspaper, TV, district, school websites, and implementing effective technology strategies and staying up to date with those as an administrator. Category 3, we'll be talking about resolving issues. So ultimately, the purpose of our job as administrators and teachers and working in the school is asking the question, what is best for students? And like I mentioned too, with being a career and technical education teacher, I prioritize this every day, and I will prioritize this later as an administrator. But by getting more parent and community involvement, it will have a positive impact on student learning and success. Making those career connections, having shadow days, creating those 21st century workforce readiness skills and just soft skills that students need. Parents also, by being involved with the committee, will be showing interest in their child's academic success. And that speaks wonders if kids know that their parents and community are also invested in their education. It will make students more invested in their education. We need to be promoting academic success for every student. We need to be encouraging a community of engagement in stakeholders, all stakeholders, and parents. Therefore, this will increase positive perception of the school and encourages the school of choice, if that's applicable. I know in some districts, parents get to choose which school their student or their child will be attending. So if you have that positive image within the school community, then you will be getting the best students possible at your school. So I do think it's important by increasing parent and community involvement and creating various committees like a PTO or PTA. Those committees help to increase student success on all levels, which I'll talk about later. So as far as debriefing the problem, my thoughts, feelings, and values, I was curious, why is the current principal so defeated and against change? What caused the parent apathy? Like I mentioned before, it was said that parents used to be involved, so what caused that change? The overall image of the school might be pretty negative within the community. So you can't assume that the lack of participation indicates a lack of desire to engage. So again, what barriers are there? Cultural differences, hesitations within the community. Why is this becoming such a negative effect? Another thing is you can't tackle big issues alone. So this new administrator needs to seek outside resources. They need to reflect on other schools' best practices and get feedback from parents in the community. And another thing too is just really asking, what is the staff's overall opinion? How are they handling parental involvement within their classroom? Are parents showing up to parent-teacher conferences? How can we advertise and communicate with parents better? So what communication methods are being used? Is it inclusive of all stakeholders? And then again, just for my career and technical education viewpoint, we are so successful in CTE because we involve the community and we bring in guest speakers and we make it relevant for students. So we need to be doing that at all levels of the school. As far as unresolved issues, engagement looks different for various schools and districts. So it's important to reflect on best practices of other schools, what is working versus what is not as effective. So what can we do at John F. Kennedy to improve parent and community involvement? Is it okay if some parents and community members are not involved? I think, again, it goes back to the quality versus quantity. We want a good quality PTO or PTA group at our school, even if that doesn't mean we have super high numbers. Do we potentially need a change in administration? A new principal, if he's been here for a long period of time, he needs to be up to date on current issues. He needs to be pursuing professional development as well, and not just being apathetic and not open to change. And then again, what are staff members doing to promote positive PR? How do we go about creating a model for other schools in similar situations so they can see a successful program? So in turn, that would help all schools in the district. And then last category, academic success, creating community and parent partnerships, different communication strategies, and really looking at attendance and grades. If parents are more aware of attendance and grades, the students will be more successful, therefore making their job easier in the end. Personal well-being, increasing parent community involvement. Students will be able to see that people truly care about their education and well-being. Expectations of the schools will be reinforced at home, and student teacher and teacher parent relationships